As the global race to harness artificial intelligence accelerates, Africa is being urged to move beyond simply supplying raw materials and instead take a leading role in building its own AI value chain. So the conversation centers on how the continent can leverage its resources, innovation and talent to create homegrown intelligent systems that are built and governed locally. For more on this, I'm joined by Masande Dyasi, who is the Managing Director at SourceWorx. Masande, thank you so much for joining us here on SABC News this morning. It's great to have you in studio. And I mean, okay, you're going to educate me a lot more here on what is it that we need to do to move forward, right, sir?
Yes.
So what do we mean when we talk about moving beyond critical minerals? And are we ready to transition, first of all, from raw materials to becoming a creator of AI-driven value chains? How do we even start that? Where do we go? I'm picturing computers doing all of this. Educate me.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me to your show. I think this is a very important opportunity for us as Africans, not necessarily entrepreneurs, to put ourselves on equal footing with the rest of the global economy. Now, as far as participating in this AI value chain, I think we do participate. It's just that we participate largely in the supply of raw materials, right? As has always been the case. I think this is a historical fact about Africa generally, that we have what it takes to deliver service, but we participate, only in the supply, and then only to buy what has been produced at the end of the day. So what's important for us at this point, acknowledging that we do have access to the mineral wealth in various parts of Africa, is for us to then take that into our own hands, right? Rather than talk about what we don't have, and leverage partnerships with institutions like the G20 group of companies to ensure that we are acknowledged and given a place to play, literally by setting up policies that ring fence some productivity to be done here, some processing to be done in Africa, possibly even packaging and testing of these processed raw materials before we send them out.
Hasn't the problem, though, been that, Africa's model, economic model, has largely been based on, extraction and exporting rather than actually innovation and production? That's what we're aiming to change here.
Yes.
All right?
So I think, as with anything, everything starts somewhere. And that's where we started, and we've been there for maybe too long, if you ask me. And I think, particularly with a country like South Africa, that has had democratic benefits for the better part of 30 years. We know more now that we are included, to a certain extent, in the economy than we did before. We also have the means to participate that we did not have before. Yeah. And we need to take advantage of that and stake our claim, because if we don't, things will remain as they are.
In terms of research capacity, some of the critics talking about Africa's research capacity and the skills that we have, how do we tackle some of those challenges?
So I would say we do have research capacity. All right. From the people that I've met in various parts of this continent, there is mind capital in Africa. It might not be maybe to the extent of more developed countries, but it is there. And even in those developed countries where there's more mind capital, it was not always there. This is a matter of skills development, right? Largely. So start from the bottom, invest in skills development intently, and measure the progression of that skills development. Also, as has been done in other BRICS countries, export talent from here to go and learn in advanced environments. I think that's, an important foundation for us to set. Otherwise, things will stay as they are.
So how do we fast-track then the development of AI talent and then ensure that it's not poached internationally?
Very interesting question, because that's a challenge we face today in South African businesses, technology specifically, because the technology landscape in South Africa is held in high regard in the rest of the world. And the advantage of that is, of the world, the first world over us, is that, they get to leverage their forex to get skill at a cheaper price or more cost-effective price, but for the same value. So what we do for example, in our company is to make sure that we create a culture that everyone can enjoy and feel part of, first and foremost,
Yeah.
right? And then over and above that is to incentivize talent, to recognize talent, so that you give yourself the best chance to retain that talent. Now, ultimately, what we cannot avoid is that humans are progressive by nature, so they
Yeah.
will always want more for themselves.
True.
So they may inevitably get attracted into other markets, but we have to have a constant supply chain of this talent, as much as we talk about minerals,
Sure.
but living talent as well. We should not stagnate in that regard.
And if we talk about one of the conversations would be around data sovereignty.
Yes.
Who owns and controls this data, that fuels AI? And
Yes.
basically, how can African governments and business also ensure that local data is used ethically?
Yes.
I think there were conversations that have been had in the past about AI governance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's another very important and, critical concept to, take control of. Data sovereignty in normal terms is who owns the data. It belongs to who. Now, if you put your data in a public space, in an open space, as is referred to, that data is owned by that environment. But the context will always remain with the source, right? And I like to make an example of AI as a very smart baby that grows very quickly, right? And the data that you feed it forms the perspective that it has ultimately. Let's say your AI models, those that I won't name, but I think we're all familiar with those. So you educate the baby in the context of your environment.
Right.
So if a baby is educated in an urban area such as Johannesburg, its context and perspective about, situations, socio-economic situations outside of Joburg in more rural areas will be slightly inaccurate, right? Because you are not there. So what's important then is for us to feed, these AI models with local data, at an accelerated rate, so that serves Africa ultimately. And how would that happen? The more we make the AI models aware of how things happen in our various regions in the continent, the more we can draw from it for socio-economic imperatives such as access to public health, access to quality education, access to employment, access to services. It will naturally then shift and form a market locally for that. And by so doing, the ownership of the progression of those environments will be with us anyway, right?
Some of the challenges, though, some of our countries on the African continent still struggling with basic digital infrastructure.
Yes.
Talk about connectivity, electricity, and a host of... How do we then want to move this direction where, we're talking about complex AI systems that would need some of these basics, including, a connection, proper digitization. And the truth is that on some countries on the African continent, it's just not there.
Yes. And I travel many of these countries on this continent, but not all is lost still. In the sense that one of the agendas of the G20 is, creating environments of sustainable energy.
Yeah.
So as far as the energy question is concerned, we can then lean towards, alternative and renewable energies for energy sources, because the data centers where, these models are hosted require a lot of energy. And this requires a lot of prior planning, right? But the access to renewable energy and the support by the G20 can help accelerate that, for example. Connectivity, similarly. In South Africa, for a while, there was a rally around data must fall, right? So simply put, access or democratizing access to, cheap data so that we can all participate. So these are imperatives that sound good in media, but are much more important than what is said, right? Because that access to that connectivity allows us to participate, allows us to feed information into these AI models, and then get the benefit of that after the fact. So those are the things that need to be done, and we would need support from the G20 for that.
Mr. Dyasi, thank you very much indeed. I was very educated on that as well. Thank you very much. I do appreciate your time.